Your loved one with dementia does something crazy or says something that annoys you. What do you do? Do you get aggravated? Do you know the best way to respond? Today, I want to share the two best and simplest rules that you can use to help manage behaviors that frustrate you, lead to confrontation with your loved one, and create stress for both of you. There's a ton of dementia advice out there, but it can be overwhelming and sometimes hard to absorb it all. Embrace these two rules and you'll be less frustrated, and your loved one will thank you for it. The first rule is don't correct, redirect. One example I recall when visiting a client and her dad was when he had made a comment that he'd moved to the town in 1990. His daughter quickly corrected him and said, "No, Dad, that's not right. You moved here 2 years ago after Mom passed away. Don't you remember? We cleaned out my office and made it into a bedroom so you'd have your own room." It was clear she was a little annoyed. Obviously, some sacrifices had been made and she wanted to remind him. But the date he came to town didn't really matter. Now, you may have heard this adage, don't correct, redirect. But let's drill down and think about why it's so powerful and also why it's so hard for us to put it into practice. First of all, from the perspective of your loved one, who likes being told that they're wrong? Dad says 1990. You say 2018. It's like Dad says black and you say white. One thing we know for sure is that even as cognition declines, people with dementia retain their feelings. So if you correct them with any air of superiority, they feel that. And if you have a tone of annoyance, as often happens, they are probably getting annoyed right back at you. And let's look at it from your point of view. It's so hard to follow this rule because being right is a requirement for modern human existence. It's at the core of what we do. In school, the goal is to learn and get A's. We get rewarded if we get the right answer. And once we get into the real world, we survive and do well because we are right. In our professional lives, we are paid to have the right answers. Our success and career advancement depends on being right. And one more thing, for most of us, and certainly if we have kids, it's also part of our nature to correct because it's how kids learn and grow. But when your loved one has dementia, all this just gets thrown out the window. It is sometimes convenient in our minds to think of our loved ones with dementia as children because they have lost some capabilities and they often develop some childlike behaviors. But the difference is that a child's brain is growing and a child can learn, and your loved one with dementia in most cases has brain damage that will only get worse. They cannot learn. So once you embrace the fact that being right is wrong, you can dramatically reduce your stress as a caregiver and make life more pleasant for both of you. And what about that redirect part? Well, redirection isn't always needed. In the case of an incorrect date, you can just let it go. Who cares? But sometimes redirection is warranted. And the key here is to try to address the underlying feeling and concern, even if their statement is incorrect. Your mom might say, for example, "No one ever comes to see me. I'm here by myself all the time." While the reality is that you go out of your way to visit twice a week, and probably with tremendous juggling of schedules to make it happen. In a case like this, a redirection might be, "Mom, I understand you feel like I don't visit, but I'm here right now, so let's make dinner and have a nice night." Redirection is definitely a skill you build over time. But the first step in the process is to tell yourself, I'm not going to argue over this incorrect statement. And once you've done that, simply recognize the underlying feeling and move forward from there. The second rule of dementia caregiving is, if it doesn't hurt anyone, let it be. I often see family members concerned and upset when their loved one with dementia acts in ways that they think are inappropriate. A common example might be that they put on clothes that you don't think match. I went through this with my own mom. She didn't have strong eyebrows, and she'd draw them in with a makeup pencil. One day, I went out to take her to lunch, and she was ready for me, excited to go, but her eyebrows were in the wrong place. One was here, and the other one was over there. Just wasn't looking good. And I said, "Mom, your eyebrows look crazy. You got to fix them." She got upset, but afterwards went into the bathroom and tried to make them better. At the end of the day, I was more concerned about what other people would think. And what I should have said was, "Mom, you look great. Let's go." In another situation, I was visiting a client. She was caring for her husband and just made him breakfast. Everything was set up nice. His eggs, toast, coffee, and orange juice. And the first thing he did was pour his orange juice into his coffee. She was horrified. We all mix our orange juice with our coffee, don't we? It just happens in our stomachs instead of in the coffee cup. So these are the two rules. Don't correct, redirect. And if it doesn't hurt anyone, let it be. With these two rules, the main thing you need to do is think twice before reacting. Pick your battles. Keep in mind that your loved one with dementia is not going to change, aside from the likelihood that they'll decline further. So changing your interactions with them is all on you. You'll avoid stress yourself, and you'll make life a little nicer for your loved one as well. These rules ought to help you in many situations. However, no dementia case is alike. If your loved one has challenging behaviors, there's a lot more you can do. See my video here on 5 ways to deal with challenging dementia behaviors, none of which require prescription meds.